Alright, we're starting with 663 today. First thing we're going to do is get our rake back. It'll be an immediate little win. Not expecting very much. We're playing pretty low stakes. Maybe 10 cents, maybe 5. 18 cents we get rake back. So first thing we're going to do is pick up our rake back. And immediately we have turned 663 into 681. Alright. Again, we still have less than 10 bucks, so we shouldn't really be playing for more than $1 in any one spot here. Unless we're playing cash, in which case I'll make an exception. I'll make some exceptions. You know, if we lost $2, wouldn't be the end of the world here. Real money or inability to make it back. Let's see what we got going on in the micro tournaments. We got a 12-cent one starting in an hour. Alright, fine, we'll get into there. And then we've got 55-cent one going right now. So we're getting to this one very late. 2 levels remaining. Whatever, I feel like gambling. Need 1 double up to get to average. The way some of these donkeys play, it won't be hard to double up. Or it's worth risking 55 cents at least. And we got a 55-cent turbo. What else we got coming up here? We got another 55-cent turbo. We can wait to start. And then that's it in the micros, the micros. Then we need to start putting up $1 or more. That's, the bankroll for that. So there isn't that much to choose from here right now. 7 a.m. Pacific time right now. Let's check out the cash games, see if there's any 9-seeded bomb pots. That's what I've had the most success in. Yeah, 9-handed. There are none going. We have 9-handed without a bomb pot. But last time we played that, we lost. Alright, I'll go ahead. There's nothing to choose from here. 9-handed. 6-handed is too much of a crapshoot for me. Forced to play way too many hands. Yeah, multi-tabling. I'm playing a whole bunch. You really gotta know your players. And I don't have a HUD, so I'm gonna play 6-handed. Going out on a limb here, playing a 9-handed with no bomb pot. We'll see how it goes. If we're not going well, I'm gonna get off this table. These guys don't put a penny in the pot unless they've got the nuts. I'm talking literal pennies. Nuts not going in. Look at these guys. Look how tight they are. Look at how tight this table is. Without a bomb pot to loosen them up. Good luck shaking any pennies out of this jar. Limps in. You think you're gonna beat these guys by aggressively playing your 9-4 offsuit? Just run over them, 9-4 offsuit. Good luck. Some of these guys have something Especially if you don't have anything. And so you got the bad cards. Somebody else has the good cards. All right, so not much happening here right now. Got into this one late also, so we're starting off almost needing to shove. All right, well, we got football coming up in a few hours here. I'm gonna see what's going on the YouTubes, DFS. Filter on there for today. Look how slow these are. Look how much time they took. Terms are so slow. Alright, we were all in. Like I said, just need to double up a little bit of average stack here. I'm getting into this late. Well, even better. Pick it up without a sweat. Okay. Build a starting stack now. Alright, I don't know which one's the best here. I already watched that one yesterday. Only two that are big and big names that are alive. Yeah. Let's see what's going on here.
When we work together, we get the job done. Thank Katie Porter for working with both parties to fix our roads, bridges, and ports, strengthen our manufacturing supply chains, and create millions of good-paying jobs to keep our economy moving.
And what we can predict, and that's that the Miami Dolphins are likely to pass a ton of times in this game. They have the fourth highest passing rate in neutral game scripts, according to our advanced stats page.
I'm just going to shove on this one because it's risky, but I haven't seen it.
And usually teams with that much passing also pass a decent amount when they're leading. It makes sense because their best running back, Myles Gaskin, is better receiving than he is rushing. So I think Tua is very intriguing today. The ownership's a lot higher than it usually is, but you have great options in Waddle, Gesicki, and Gaskin to pair Tua with. I think this has a lot of promise, and it's really cheap.
Who do you like most for the Dolphins?
I like all three of those guys pretty equally. The one thing I would say is I feel like Waddle and Gesicki and Tua in the same lineup might be a little bit overly popular, so I might go with Gaskin plus one of the two, but you can't really go wrong with any of those three guys.
It's crazy too, Ben. If you look at just overall targets on the season to running backs, you're talking about a guy in Myles Gaskin who has quietly been top 5 in the league. So, this isn't a guy that's not getting a lot of target. Has he been efficient with them? No, I think we can all agree that has not been the case when it comes to Myles Gaskin. But he has been involved, and as much as we talked about and criticized Brian Flores early in the year for such an erratic workload for Myles Gaskin, after Malcolm Brown went down, Gaskin's been averaging over 19 looks per game. So I don't look at him as a priority play this week, but could I see this being one of those spots where Gaskin, gets 20 looks in a game where the Jets can't score and he ends up finding the end zone? Because now you don't have Malcolm Brown taking away those goal line carries either. I do have some interest in Gaskin today.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I do think even if for some reason the Dolphins fall way behind, he's still a guy. He's got a 3.5, receptions prop out there so he can catch the ball. And certainly if they're winning, he's going to be getting the lion's share of the carries. So I get it. The Jets defense is not putting up a fight against anyone. And really any of these key Dolphins, like Alex kind of referenced, they are in play today just because of the situation on the other side.
Appreciate you, Slim Brody. Thanks to all of you guys for showing up this morning. Thanksgiving football is coming up quick too. Week 12, we're going to have a 3.5-hour stream for that. So Thanksgiving morning, be here with us. This same exact crew right here, joined by a bunch of other fellas here at the Awesemo platform. So I know you'll be here with us. Just letting you know in advance, we got a lot going on before we stuff ourselves with turkey and liquor and pass out by 6 o'clock. At least I hope I do. Jordan Lockhart, thank you for the super chat. Another win yesterday. Telling Robert Johnson style. Look, I mean no sacrilege here, but the man sold his soul to the devil. What about the Jets, Alex?
I think the Jets are interesting. I mean, you got three guys on the Jets you can really look at. Michael Carter, who he's had a workhorse role in some games. However, his biggest work was when they had Tevin Coleman inactive, and he was active last week. So a little bit harder to predict kind of him being a workhorse. Still a good play, but Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder both are out there a good amount of snaps and get targeted a good amount. So I think those guys are pretty safe. The Jets have been pretty neutral run pass, and with Joe Flacco at quarterback, expect that to continue. I mean, he's probably as good as the other guys they've thrown out there, even though
there's no real downgrade from Wilson to White to Flacco. It's all the same.
So I think, you can go with some Jets this week. It's definitely better than the average week.
That's commitment, Alex. I appreciate it. He said I'd abandon my family for y'all. Ben, when it comes to Flacco and the rest of this cast of characters, of course, Corey Davis returned last week and had a fine game, 5 for 93. Like, if you get into the end zone with that, you're pretty happy with that at his price point. He hasn't budged since last week. What about Michael Carter, though? Like, the thing that we loved about Mike White was that he was targeting his running back so heavily in the passing game, regardless of game script. Granted, they were usually playing from behind. Do you think Flacco goes back to his running backs in the passing game? Because that's essential for bad teams, or either you're talking about Gaskin or Michael Carter. Like, look at DeAndre Swift. If he didn't catch passes, he'd be outside of the top 40 at his position this year.
So the problem I have with it isn't that I don't think it's possible. And Flacco, clearly he's not moving. Like, he is, that's one difference. He's not moving at all. He's a straight statue. I guess I just worry a little that it's like a reverse free roll. It can only be worse because they were maximizing the output in terms of dumping it down to the running backs in terms of catching the ball. And I just worry that Flacco, even if it's marginally different, that could have a serious downgrade for Michael Carter, who I don't see very often just getting there solely on the ground. I mean, he is carrying the ball double-digit attempts basically every game, regardless of game script. But I do worry that without a healthy amount of targets, that's going to be tough to eclipse the ceiling and be really relevant. So I don't think that Flacco, I don't see anything where I'm like, oh, no chance that Flacco dumps the ball off. But I do worry that the way those other guys, particularly Mike White, was utilizing Carter, it seems like he was maxing out his potential, and now we have a new situation.
So if you were, let's put it this way. And yeah, Whistles Go Woo was on with us on the contrary with Alex and myself. That was a really fun show. If you want to check him out every Friday except the Friday before this past Friday is what I would recommend. But if there are people that are saying, you know what, I want to get some exposure to this game, Ben, I want to stack this game, how would you go about it? Alex kind of told us he might go to someone like Gesicki, Gaskin in a stack. How would you go about it if this was a game you were keying in on?
Yeah, I think that's really the move. If you have some one-offs that are a little different, I think you can go very generic with Tua, Waddle, and Gesicki. If you want to be different within your stack, certainly incorporating Gaskin as a pass catcher with those guys. With the Jets, I personally don't think that it's a team. Can you run it back with a guy like Carter? Sure, but I would be fine just having a Dolphins stack with no one on the other side. The receivers for the Jets right now, there's just a lot of bodies. There's no clear hierarchy in my mind. So just a lot of questions with not a ton of answers.
James Hay, welcome to Team Awesome, brother. Glad to have you here. Alex, let's talk about Houston and Tennessee. Houston, objectively bad football team. Tyrod Taylor returned and made them no better, but they had a bye week. They're coming off of that. He's still better than Davis Mills. For me, I'll be completely honest with you right now. They're 10-point dogs, very low implied total. The one thing I'm at least willing to entertain is Brandon Cooks, because Tyrod Taylor did target him 14 times in his return, and he has a massive 30+% target share on this team this year. Outside of that, though, and maybe you're not even there at all, I don't really know what you do with Houston.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's a little bit tougher to get to aside from Brandon Cooks today. It is a little bit of a win game in Tennessee, and the matchup pretty average, I guess, but Houston's offense as a whole is really tough to target because the work is split so many ways after you go from Cooks. So I'm a little bit concerned about the Cooks ownership. The last time I checked, it was pretty high, and we have
he's at 20%. Wow.
20% ownership on Cooks and only a 9% chance of being in the optimal lineup according to our boom bust tool. So that's a seriously negative leverage score. So to find some other pivots there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if Cooks is going to get that, if he was $5K, I could understand it, but at $6,000, that seems like that ownership does seem quite high, Ben, given the complete ineptitude of this team and pretty low touchdown equity, you would think as well.
Yeah, there's not a lot to like here. There's sizable underdog, and in some ways, obviously getting Tyrod Taylor back, I think helps Houston potentially hang in games and win games. And yeah, he threw the ball a bunch against Miami, but I still worry week in and week out how much he doesn't consolidate some of it with his legs and just make the game a little closer, but not good for fantasy purposes. So with the ownership like that, with so many games, I really have nothing to say. And there's so much value. You really don't have to take what I would call unnecessary shots on some of these like low owned. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, the Texans, they have guys around the min and we're starving for value. That couldn't be further from the truth today. So I think it's probably unnecessary to dig deep on some of these type of teams.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it for sure. Then what are you doing on the other side of this, Ben, with Tennessee? I will say this much, right? I've been talking about, I think I was talking about Foreman on Tuesday, just because I do think he ends up taking over as the lead back. I'm not saying it's going to be like an 80-20 split, but I think the split will favor D'Onta Foreman going forward. As a pass catcher, he's actually been pretty decent. This isn't me really rallying behind him in a huge way, but I will say with Jeremy McNichols out, that makes, to me at least, a really big difference. You're not going to have Adrian Peterson catching passes. It's just not something that they should be looking to do. He's been targeted once in each of his last two games. He has -1 and 5 yards. D'Onta Foreman, every time, even going back to Texas, that he's been given an opportunity, Texas as in college, not Houston, given an opportunity to make plays after the catch, he's done it, man. He averages like 14 yards per reception in limited work. So do I think it's 6% that getting away from some of the other cheap backs that Foreman makes sense as a 10-point favorite with a huge total? I'll tell you, man, I do. And I think maybe I'm selling myself more on him as I talk about it right now.
I get it. I do. I mean, you brought him up. You did bring him up on Tuesday. I was on that show with you. And I if it can be reduced to just AP, yeah, he will probably get the goal line work and some carries, but Foreman will have ample opportunities. I don't know, not that you were going to roster this guy, but Hilliard possibly being active. I just wonder, does he slide in to the McNichols role potentially, and he consumes that passing volume? Because I think Foreman needs that out. He is pretty electric when he gets the ball, but if you're not getting the goal line work, and you're not really catching a lot of passes, your paths to victory become really, really thin. So that's my biggest concern. He's definitely in play. I just don't know exactly how many guys will be touching the ball in that backfield.
And that's fair. I will say this much though. Last week, Dante Foreman actually led the team in red zone carries. So goal line carries,
that would be good.
Yeah, goal line work certainly different there. And it's not like we've seen a ton of this guy since he ruptured his Achilles. That changes, but he was the only one with a goal line carry last week as well. So I'm telling you, you might see a shift here where Dante Foreman starts getting the bulk of work kind of all in between the 20s and in the red zone. We'll see. I could be totally wrong, but I just find 6% to be pretty low as a 10-point favorite. I don't know, Alex, talk to us, man. You're the one we should be listening to for some of this stuff. What are we doing with the Tennessee Titans today?
Yeah, I was looking at Dante Foreman as well. The workload is really difficult to predict here because we just haven't seen them play a game without McNichols. So last week, Adrian Peterson ran routes on 31% of dropbacks and Foreman only on 19%. So that was an interesting data point. Foreman got more carries than Peterson. Then you throw in Dontrell Hilliard. I think that it's definitely interesting from a contrarian standpoint because Foreman's only projected at 6% owned and Adrian Peterson at 1%. But there's a lot safer options at running back at this price point. So the opportunity cost in going to Foreman is pretty high when you can go to someone like Mark Ingram, who we know is going to have a lockdown workload.
What do you think of the pass catchers here? Most importantly, someone like AJ Brown with Julio on the IR.
Yeah, AJ Brown looks amazing. I remember a few weeks ago there was some like pitch count kind of thing, but in the last 3 weeks he's been out there about 90% of the time, so a slight increase over the season averages. Targeted 26% of the time he's out there. So Julio Jones being out just means more targets are likely going to go to AJ Brown. So I think that he really stands out as a great option. I think he's one of the top wide receivers this week, and not terribly high owned at 12%.
Ben, what do you think about these? And I will say, Brian, no revenge narrative whatsoever. When it think about, dude, why would he ever want to be in Houston? Again, send gift baskets out there for letting him go. No, I don't look at it like that whatsoever. They're an awful football team, and he's on a good football team that has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations right now. Where are you at in the passing game, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super high on the passing game as a whole, but I think AJ Brown certainly, as Alex talked about, is a guy that we've got to look to. I don't anticipate getting to any Tannehill stacks or anything like that, but AJ Brown is a one-off. He could consolidate a ton of target share. He's unstoppable. They're playing Houston. I mean, what's there to say? We've seen in obviously last week he was a little quiet against New Orleans, but that's a completely different secondary. The 2 games before that, 11 and 11 targets. We know the volume can be there. He's got great touchdown equity. He checks most of the boxes today.
Anything else?
Not really. I mean, from a betting standpoint, I don't really see it in this game. 45 feels about right. Titans have been bouncing between 9.5 and 10. That feels about right.
Okay. Let's talk Indy and Buffalo then. You got the Colts 7-point dogs today, Alex. They've had such a strange season, right? Like they're a good football team, but I think they're only 5-5 because they dropped a bunch early on. I think they went 0-3 to start the year. They had an absolute gauntlet through the first 5 weeks of the season. Carson Wentz got banged up. There's just so much going on. But at the same time, they've dominated lesser teams. This is not a lesser team, despite all of their offensive woes in 2 of the last 3 weeks. This Buffalo defense has been unbelievable all season long. Do you like anything from the Colts today?
Yeah, I think usually the Colts are really popular with Pittman and Taylor, both being 2 of the highest owned plays last week. The matchup versus Buffalo, where they're big underdogs, is likely to change that. So now we're seeing Taylor and Pittman come in at a lot lower ownership than we're used to seeing. So Taylor is only projected for 5%, and Pittman for 3%. So I think that maybe the pendulum has shifted too far to the other direction. Buffalo's got a good pass defense. Their run defense isn't anything that's really moving the needle for me. So I think if you play Taylor, there's a chance that this game script goes completely opposite to what we're saying, and you could get the best running back easily for a much lower ownership than normal.
All right, Ben. I'm getting the impression, and I'll be honest, I'm legitimately worried about Jonathan Taylor and this entire offense today. Anything can happen, but I feel like you may be more on the side of Alex on this one.
So it's not just me, honestly. Jonathan Taylor, coming into this slate, I figured that he would be a pretty hot button issue and that the matchup would deter some people. It's not the best spot. He's going on the road in Buffalo. They're 7-point underdog. But the first thing I did, I actually checked out OddsShopper, and I've talked about this before. I talked about it on the 8:30 show on this very channel with Pete. I went to OddsShopper and I pulled up Jonathan Taylor's prop because I want to say, okay, what is Vegas saying? Are they really worried? His rushing yards prop is still 73.5, and our projections are leaning over that number. So right away, I'm saying, okay, they're not that worried about it. Jonathan Taylor is still projected for a very, very healthy output, and that's still, even in a game like this, I think the carries will be there. Now you get the low probability outcome. Say the Colts win the game or they're competitive in the game, he could destroy this number. So I still think that with his ability to catch some passes, you're not completely dead if the Bills cover the game. But if the Colts keep it close, if the Colts win the game, you, as Alex said, you could be getting one of the best running backs in the league for little to no ownership. And when I went to OddsShopper, I quickly realized that the books are not that worried that he's in some impossible spot here. So seeing the over there, I actually like him as a tournament play today.
Now, is this something that you're like, as far as, because I know you use OddsShopper for DFS research, also to find bets, but was this one that popped out more as like ideal DFS research, giving you an idea that, oh, wait a second, this is projected way higher than I thought he would be?
So I actually think this is where ownership is really important with OddsShopper. He's not popular. So instead of just betting a prop where I'm looking to double my money, the payoff potentially, if he clears this number, I think from the DFS standpoint, is much more lucrative in terms of upside. So I actually used it more on the DFS side. Obviously, I use it to identify props in that world. But I think for Jonathan Taylor specifically, this confirmed that he's a really good tournament play today.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. What about the passing game, Alex?
Well, I think that Buffalo, they have a great pass defense, but also the fact that they have a good offense means that maybe we see some more attempts from Wentz throwing the ball today. So a little bit less than average situation for the Colts receivers today, but I think Pittman still got a lot of potential. He shows up as one of our top leverage options in the boom bust tool today at 3% ownership and 9% optimal. And I even am kind of looking at T.Y. Hilton a little bit. I know you guys are probably rolling your eyes, but he ran routes on 70% of plays last week, and that's the kind of workload I'm hoping to see. He gets started about 20% of the time he's out there. So for a guy that no one's going to be on, he's coming in at 1% ownership. I think I might take a couple of shots.
You might dabble a little bit with Hilton again?
Yeah.
All right.
Nobody can't get a second person interested. These are the cheapest tournaments, guys. Come on.
Ratio right now. That's not bad at all. I'll hand it to you guys. But we're 173 away from 1,000. We got almost 3,000 people live watching right now. If you haven't done so, only takes a second. Show some love. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe too while you're at it. All right, Buffalo, Ben. Let's talk about the Bills offense here. A team that really doesn't have much inclination to run if they don't have to. It's not to say that they won't give the ball to guys like Moss at times, but this feels like one of those spots where Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs can go off again. And I'll tell you, you look at them now, they have, a bottom 5 game script adjusted rush percentage, which is something we would have expected coming into the season. Stefon Diggs finally blows up last week. And the Colts, as I mentioned to you guys coming into last week before Trevor Lawrence just proved it's just complete ineptitude, which was disappointing from a betting standpoint. But they are still allowing 90% of touchdowns that they've allowed have come through the air. This is a pass funnel defense through and through. My guess is Josh Allen and company are willingly going to oblige.
No doubt about it. And I think this is why, in our top stack tool, we see the Bills very towards the top here. And it makes a lot of sense because Josh Allen and his ability, and he even, last week against the Jets, he had 3 yards rushing, which is a complete outlier for him. He just got it done purely passing the ball, and we saw Diggs explode. We didn't see, and this is what I want to ask you guys, because clearly I think we know Allen to Diggs is going to be very, very popular. We didn't see Sanders really do anything. We didn't see Beasley do anything. We got Dawson Knox. Like, is there an attachment to this, or is it a kind of like a Green Bay where you're going to get Rodgers and Adams, but there's a huge drop-off? So obviously I like the Bills. I think it's a healthy total, and you can go to these guys. I just question, do I want a secondary pass catcher with Allen today?
So if you're going Allen, you feel more comfortable going just Allen Diggs and then going some cheap stuff around them elsewhere?
I think right now there's so many other cheap options across the league that the allure of having a second guy in the stack is mitigated because these one-offs that are cheap are in such better spots because there's so many of them today.
Yeah, Alex, our top stack tool has Buffalo at 17.9% top stack probability, still an 8.3% leverage score. So it loves them today. Are you on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills are always one of the best options because they have an efficient passing offense and they throw the ball at a high volume. So on the year, they're around 8 yards per attempt, or I guess in the mid 7s. But still, I think Indiana is a tougher than average matchup, so maybe that means they're going to pass a little bit more than they would on a typical day. And the thing I like is you got 3 guys that have pretty good projection to salary ratios with Diggs, Sanders, and Beasley. So that just means when you stack up the team, there's more ways to do it, and each one will give you a little bit less ownership on that particular combination of players.
So which guys outside of Diggs do you think you like most?
Sanders and Beasley are definitely the guys. Now I know Beasley has been the one kind of getting more targets and having a higher ceiling. But the thing with Beasley is his playing time is a lot more inconsistent. Some games he's out there like 60% of the time, and others it's like 85%, where Sanders, he's out there a much higher percentage of the time, but gets targeted a lot less. So if people like Beasley more, which generally is the case, then that kind of makes me lean towards Sanders. And that's kind of, I think both are good plays. They're both showing up as positive leverage this week.
Okay. Hey, Ben, let's talk about New Orleans and Philly. Before we do, though, shout out to our sponsor, Yahoo Fantasy. They've got some amazing contests going on today. And if you haven't signed up yet, I don't know why you haven't yet, especially with what we've been having going on here with the promotion the past couple of months. Take advantage of the promotion. First of all, you've got the $1 Million Baller, $200,000 in overlay, lower management fees here than anywhere else in the industry you're going to find. You got the 50K scramble today. Honestly, if you just go into the lobby and look at this, even 100K Monday Night Baller tomorrow. A lot of big NFL contests on Yahoo. They're doing it big lately. And if you use the link in the description that we have, or the one that Jordan Klein, producing today's show, is going to put in the chat right now, sign up and deposit using that link. All you have to do is deposit $10. That's it. No more. If you want to, you can. And enter a paid contest. They will email us with your information, with your email. We'll hit you up, give you a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's $90. That's everything on the site, not just football. You get basketball, hockey, PGA, MMA, everything out there. If there's contests, we have content, and we have all of the tools and content for Yahoo as well. So it's a perfect marriage here between Yahoo, Awesemo, and then hopefully yourself. Not to mention that when you deposit that $10, Yahoo's going to give you $10 in credit. So it washes that out. Really, all you're doing is getting a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, everything, by spending, a minute to sign up over there and playing some amazing contests as well. So take advantage of this if you haven't. I saw some people being like, Lafi, I'm finally doing it. This was last week. And I thought to myself, that's great, but why have you waited, 2 months? Take advantage. You have amazing overlap now with football. hockey or basketball, hockey, UFC, like one of the best times a year to get all of your content in with all of the sports without paying a single cent. So use that link, sign up, deposit $10, enter a paid contest, and we'll be hitting you up with your free month of Awesemo Plus. And be sure to join the Discord as well. You got office hours with the pros helping you out and a great community over there. All right, let's talk about New Orleans and Philly, Ben. This is a big one. You've got no Alvin Kamara. Last week we saw Mark Ingram with 21 total looks, including 7 targets. Had a big game at a discounted price point. His prices come up, but nothing egregious. And then I'm going to throw this out there. Taysom Hill is questionable and hasn't gotten in a full practice all week. If he is out, it does actually bolster, in my opinion, the value of somebody like Ingram, because you're not getting anyone else that's going to see a single goal line carry if they get there.
Yeah, I mean, we did just see this, and the nice thing, it seemed like he was contributing in checking every box. Like, he's going to get some volume. He obviously could get some goal line work. You mentioned with Hill possibly hurt, and he's catching the ball. So, like, what is there? Any game script, he's got a fine matchup with Philly. It's a low total game, so touchdowns across the board may be marginalized, but he can get there on pure volume. And yeah, the prices come up, but again, it's nothing outrageous. I still see some value there. So is it a plug and play? Is it Dearness Johnson from last week? No, I don't think so, but certainly Mark Ingram as a pay down back has to be considered.
Chris says, unpopular opinion, Foreman has more points than Dillon today. Listen, I like Foreman, man, but I'm not willing to go that far with you. But I don't have a problem getting either or both of them in the lineups at all. Alex, what are you doing with this backfield in New Orleans?
Well, I think that Mark Ingram is one of the guys that's pretty cheap for the workload he's getting. So he's probably the go-to option here. With Trevor Siemian in at quarterback, you really can't expect much out of the passing offense, and they're run first team anyway. So Ingram, he is only 5,400 on DraftKings and projects really well. So he's kind of one of those guys in the mix for the top running back slots. But there's a lot of those guys this week, so I think you can just mix and match them.
All right. Yeah, I guess you can. Do you like anything from the passing game here?
No, I don't really like anything from New Orleans passing. I mean, they run the ball more than half the time, had a neutral game script, and then their top receiver is Marquez Callaway. So it's really tough to get to anyone.
So Ben, Sirianni's dialing up 50 passes today now that Miles Sanders is back, right? Like he has to. He for some reason he just has a visceral reaction to Miles Sanders every time he sees the man. That's obviously just speculation, but can you imagine the guy goes on the IR and now he's got to watch these games as Jordan Howard and Boston Scott pile up monster performances on the ground? Yeah,
it's quite disturbing because he was, Miles Sanders in that game, he got hurt. He started out, he was rolling. Yeah, that's right. It looked like the day.
Was that Detroit or was that the game before that?
I think it was Oakland, I want to say.
Las Vegas.
There is no Oakland anymore, but the Raiders. So I just look at this. Obviously, New Orleans defense, you can't really run against them anyway. You get Hurts on the edge, and Smith has finally shown up. Again, it's a low total game. I think it's going to be very, very competitive, though, as the books kind of say. I have no problem going to Jalen Hurts kind of as a tournament play. He's mobile. He can do things that not a lot of other quarterbacks can. He's not going to be popular relative to everybody else. So I like it in that regard, but it's not the best game environment just given the situation with New Orleans. I think they're kind of incapable in getting into back and forth games at this point.
Yeah. I'll say this much. They are a pass funnel defense, right? But Philly's definitely, if Sirianni's learned anything, they're still going to try to run. I'm telling you right now, they are.
Well, that's not going to work.
But I don't think it's going to work. What I'm saying is and I was obviously being facetious earlier with Sirianni dialing up 50 pass plays. I'm not saying it's going to work. I don't want to get to the run game, Ben. What I'm saying is I don't think it's wise to go into this assuming that Jalen Hurts is going to throw 40 plus times just because New Orleans is good against the run. That's what I'm saying.
Very true. I think for me, it's easier to say that maybe they get Jalen Hurts on the edge a little more intentionally, knowing that he probably is going to be their. I think he's got a very real shot to be their highest rushing player of the game here.
Alex, what do you think about Philly today?
Well, their recent numbers with their run pass splits have been really concerning. It's been like the most rushing attempts I've seen, like pretty much in any stretch of NFL games over the past few years. So if you go to our advanced stats page, you can see the week by week breakdown. So week 7, 56%, then 70%, 70%, 59%. They're like rushing as much as most teams pass, which is insane. But like that's kind of a double whammy for Hurts because quarterbacks tend to rush a little bit more on passing plays because of scrambling. And then you can't really have much confidence in the pass catchers. So I'm not super excited about the team, especially with the tough matchup. But I do think Quez Watkins is priced a little bit too low. He's been out there about 100% of the time the last few weeks, which has been a big uptick since the beginning of the season. So I think if you wanted to go with Quez Watkins, it's not the worst build.
Okay. We just got some news on Lamar Jackson that he's arriving to the stadium soon, but not himself. Try to go, but they're trying to get him hydrated. That's not encouraging at all.
I feel like
go ahead.
They're trying to hype up this illness, man. It's like they're trying to like recreate the Michael Jordan flu game.
I was thinking the same thing. I was just gonna say flu game. Yeah, it feels like that, and he's just gonna run all over the Chicago Bears. I don't know, but we'll talk about that. That's one of the one of the games we'll get to shortly. Do you guys have anything else from this one, from Philly and New Orleans, or you want to move on?
I think Philly's gonna win the game from the betting standpoint.
You got any action there?
I haven't bet it, but I'm probably going to. I mean, yeah, inside, there are 2.5s out there. I certainly am not going to take it at 3, but at 2.5, I think Philly at home. New Orleans is simply not that good right now.
No, they're really not at all. And without Alvin Kamara, I mean, that really, really hamstrings them a lot. Ben, with Washington, this may sound irrelevant, understandably so, but I will throw it out there because I always try and put any even semi-relevant news. Jordan, have we been putting that stuff on the lower? We have, right? All right, my man. Thank you. Ricky Seals-Jones is out, and Logan Thomas is still not back from the IR. So that means that we are left in a game on the road against Carolina with John Bates and Sammis Reyes.
Oh, yes.
What?
I said yes, of course.
As your tight end.
Noted pass catcher Sammis.
You know a lot about him?
No, I can't say that I do. I've now seen his face because I clicked into his picture on DraftKings. But I mean, this is a game I thought you were going to bring up. A lot of times we talk about injuries to guys that we might be playing. To me, the much more important thing is Washington's defensive line is missing 2 super players in Chase Young and Sweat. And I think that's going to have massive repercussions on the other side of the game. We'll get there. But when I look at Washington, I really don't know what to expect here. You did mention the loss. This is a lot of pressure on McLaurin, who's a very, very good player, but he's going to be asked to do a lot in this passing game. So I look at him, and then we've seen a ton of work against Tampa Bay, and they did win that game from start to finish. But I still worry a little bit. You've got McKissick as the passing option. Not my favorite team to target in Washington, and I do think those injuries play a massive part in this game.
And just to be clear, I brought it up not to say we should be playing Sammis Reyes or John Bates, but to point out that you already had Seals-Jones playing 100% of snaps every week. He actually had a relatively decent target share. Now you're down to like nothing on this team, Alex, which, as Ben pointed out, is going to make Terry McLaurin, you would think, a focal point of this offense. It'd be crazy and if they didn't, but who am I to say? I really don't know. And Curtis Samuel's doubtful too.
Yeah, I mean, McLaurin certainly gets a very high target share. He's at 22% on plays that he's out there, which is almost 100% of them. So I think he's a fine option today as well. It is really tough to get to anyone else on Washington because no one's out there like more than 2/3 of the snaps. And then John Bates is a big question mark. So it might be just McLaurin for me.
Ben, do you know where Bates went to school?
even if you tell me, I might not know if you ask me later in the show.
Okay. I bet
What-
Gajeski knows.
Where did he go?
Boise State.
Normally when you say that, I'll think back and be like, oh, I remember, now that makes sense. No, don't remember him on the blue turf. Can't say
You know
I
where
do.
Samus Reyes went?
No, Boise State. They both went there.
Loyola.
Loyola. Well, that's not a good sign considering they don't. I haven't seen Loyola football in this century. They don't play in the normal leagues. Loyola, Chicago, or Loyola, Maryland? It just says Loyola.
It says, hold on. No, it said Loyola, LA, I thought.
Ah, yes, the lesser known of the three. Maybe Loyola Marymount. That's not a great, but more power to that guy. He's getting a lot of run on the show for the first time ever.
Yeah. Do you know where Tim Boyle went?
That I should know, but no.
No,
Where'd he go?
I don't know. Just
Oh,
asking.
well, I should have just said something confidently. You may have never checked. We could have
Eastern
just
Kentucky. No, Alex, I heard Josh say it earlier on today's show. He looked up his college stats. He had in college a 12 to 26 touchdown to interception ratio. How is this guy starting in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Detroit Lions, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't need to say much more than that. Too. What are you doing? And by the way, thank you for the super chat. Corey says, I'm thinking to play the Washington D. In my opinion, they were playing better without Chase and Sweat, and Cam still needs to figure stuff out. I mean, look, anything can happen, and I know Chase wasn't having a great season, but Sweat and Chase is a clear negative no matter how you look at it. So anyway, Alex, you like anything from Carolina? I mean, Cam Newton's cheap today, baby.
Yeah, I think Cam Newton's pretty interesting. I don't know what to make of that report that he's not going to play like every snap and they're going to bring in PJ Walker. That does seem like something that teams are very reluctant to do normally. So I'm not buying into that completely. That being said, I do think Cam will make the team's run pass split tilt a lot more to run because he rushes the ball out himself. So that's going to negatively impact guys like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, if you were considering him in the first place. Christian McCaffrey is kind of a wash for me because he's been a lot better than expected this year as far as workload and production when he's been out there. So I think Cam will be a little bit worse for his fantasy performances compared to like what we're used to with McCaffrey, but he still is projected to be the top scoring running back on the slate. So a little bit expensive. There's some great value options, so he's not top of my list, but not bad.
Underdog Consulting says, how'd you guys fall into this bitch? Pretty dope. Seems like someone had a homie at ESPN or something. I don't know if he's referring to us, but I can assure you ESPN would not be inclined to do me any favors anytime soon. So, no, nothing to do with ESPN. I don't know if you're referring to us, but nah. This is grassroots stuff here, Alex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we keep it real.
We keep it real. Yeah. Built from the ground floor up, baby. Ben, talk to me about Carolina, Cam Newton, DJ Moore. There's hype on Robbie Anderson these days because he had one, semi-decent salvageable game. And then Christian McCaffrey, of course, coming into his third game since he's returned from injury.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because of obviously Cam returning, and he, you've always talked about this, Luffy. He really transforms the offense because he takes a lot of the goal line equity and the rushing equity and all those things, and it really is orphaned points, meaning he's the only one that benefits from them. So if you're not playing him, it's just a negative for everybody else. I like Carolina in the game. I think that Washington is going to be severely hampered. They weren't good to begin with on defense, which has been shocking to me, but losing those guys up front, I think really hurts this team. Carolina looked really good last week. I don't really, that's the NFL for you. They destroyed Arizona, but I do think this is a downgrade to the pass catchers and to McCaffrey because Cam, again, he's an effective player for the team, but I don't think he's an effective player in fantasy.
So, and I agree with you. I remember all this summer I was talking about the Cam Newton goal line stats and red zone touchdowns with New England. You would think the running backs didn't exist in New England last year. But Christian McCaffrey is a little bit different in that respect, and he still had a strong season without or with Cam Newton back a few years ago. So I definitely think it's okay. So we talked about this, Alex, and maybe we could break it down this way. When we talked to David and Whistles Go Woo on Friday, is this a it hurts McCaffrey situation, or is this a rising tide lifts all ships scenario where you say this offense sucked with Darnold recently, with PJ Walker, and maybe Cam Newton's actually competent enough to put him in favorable enough positions to benefit someone like Christian McCaffrey, or at least not hurt him?
I think the rising tide here, because the team total this week is 23, and like the last couple weeks has been around like the high teens. So you have a much more positive outlook today for the Panthers. So I don't hate maybe trying to stack it up with a little Cam and DJ Moore and maybe McCaffrey, since you'll have the money for it. So there's definitely a way you could do it. The one question mark is how much is PJ Walker going to play?
You think he is going to play a decent amount?
I don't think he's going to play a lot because, I mean, we saw this with Philadelphia last year. It's like, oh, yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to, like, play some snaps at quarterback. And, like, in those games, he, like, didn't see the field. So, like, these reports are just extremely unreliable with, in particular with quarterbacks not playing the whole game, since, like, most of the time they do.
Right. I got you. Any priorities from either side of this game, Alex?
No, I think not any priorities here. I like some other sacks better, but DJ Moore, the price is pretty decent on him, so it might be a little contrarian with Cam Newton as quarterback, but I think he's a pretty good individual player.
Jack says, I watched Osmo cash $250,000 on Thursday, and he's here like that was a regular Thursday. This isn't his first rodeo.
I'm still hungover from that.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're a humble guy for your success in the DFS world. About as humble as Chess is okay.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm always trying to aspire to be as humble as Chess is okay.
Ben, any priorities from Carolina, Washington?
No, not really. It's not a priority because it's a defense. I think you can absolutely play Carolina's defense in this spot. My biggest priority from this game is betting Carolina. I have done that already.
Okay. What'd you get him at?
I got him at 3.
Okay. Makes sense.
I'm fine with that.
Hey, we got free stuff on the site today as well. NFL rankings, totally free. NBA player projections, NHL top stacks, all of that stuff normally behind the paywall. Today in front of it, totally free. Do not need an account or a subscription or anything like that. But if you ever are interested in joining us over at Awesemo, all the tools built by #1 ranked player right here, Awesemo himself. We got ownership player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, the lineup builder, the fantasy cruncher add-on, and all of the premium articles for every sport. Use the promo code. Is it still NFL Live, Jordan? We're back to NFL Live, right? To make sure, because oh, we got a new one. We're doing stuffing. Jesus. All right. Use the promo code stuffing. What do we get here, Jordan? What's what?
$1.
Oh, that's solid. All right. All right. Thanks, man. Stuffing. Use the promo code stuffing to get Awesemo NFL Express Pass for $1. I will throw out too that with the Express Pass, you get all of our tools for the showdown slates and for the tiers, and a ton of stuff for the main slates as well. So I think that's where the biggest value comes in. First of all, it's $1, but second of all, yeah, this is a solid option, especially when there's so many showdowns every day. Does this include all the showdowns for Thanksgiving too?
Yeah, all showdowns that we cover. So
that's huge then. You're getting a ton of showdowns this week included in this for $1. Yeah, use the promo code stuffing. Check that out. Can't go wrong. All right. Baldy and the Oath, they broke Lafayette. Yeah, you know how I feel about it. You know how I feel about our promos. Hey, if they work, they work. But anyway, let's keep it going here. We've got Detroit and Cleveland, Ben. And Tim Boyle, the pride of Eastern Kentucky, one might say.
We bet Eastern Kentucky in basketball yesterday, Lafe.
Yes, we did. And that was, I mean, they smoked them.
They covered. That's all that matters. So we got that connection. Don't think it's going to carry over to Tim Boyle, though.
I parlayed that with the Utah because I couldn't get Utah under 3. So they smoked them, in my opinion, because I wasn't leaning on that 12.5. But Swift is a weird player because, first of all, Jamal Williams is expected back. I don't think that's just a non-factor. I think it's at least worth mentioning because they had a 50-50 split in the backfield prior to that. Cleveland's defense is good or bad. Who knows, depending on the week. But Swift's coming off a 33-carry game where 2 guys many of you have never heard of found the end zone and he didn't. So at this price, what do you do with him?
I mean, I'm just really worried about this situation in general.
Register for a free roll at least. Can't lose money on that.
General for Detroit, obviously. Not that Goff was playing good, but man, this is just a tough spot. And you mentioned, it seems like Detroit, and we've talked about this in recent weeks, is just, I don't know if they're spinning a wheel or they're just trying all sorts of things. I mean, what we saw against Pittsburgh with Swift having 33 carries, they kept it so aggressive on the
Boys fans are my wife's relatives, so they're like, we gotta eat dinner before the Dallas Cowboys game, and And then they're like, "Oh shoot, Alex is a Lions fan. Do we have to like make time to watch the Lions game?" I'm like, "Have you like seen a Lions game? Like it's not the most appetizing experience."
You don't want to throw up.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Detroit's just a full pit fade today. Cleveland is a solid defense. Williams coming back is going to eat into Swift's workload. And I mean, Tim Boyle is not going to do any of the players any favors. I guess maybe he might throw to running backs a good amount, but yeah, the price tag on Swift is just too high for him playing with Williams this week.
It's not the most appetizing. Ben, where do you go with the Cleveland Browns now that Nick Chubb is expected back in action against the Detroit team that's been demolished by them? It's tough to get to at his price point. They're clearly baking the matchup in heavily, at least on DraftKings.
No doubt about it. So that's a little concerned because he's going to have an explosive game. You know, he can't just have a mediocre game, and they are massive favorites. So we'll see. The problem is, though, if you don't get to him, then what are you doing? I mean, you've got like Jarvis Landry, I guess, if you want to be different. But again, 42.5 point total, 13-point favorites. The optics are okay, but you're not going to get much cooperation from Detroit. And I think that makes it pretty tough to be different in this game. So you're really focused on Nick Chubb. And as you mentioned, his price point doesn't allow a ton of margin of error. You know, he needs to run pretty hot with the touchdowns.
Yeah, no question. That's a concern to me. And but another thing to consider is Donovan Peoples-Jones is essentially doubtful for this one, Alex. So Baker Mayfield, all you've heard about all week is he's banged up, he's bruised up, the man's taking a beating this season. Sounds like they're running cover for him just so those commercials still hold some value. But I think they're going to try and run the football as much as humanly possible in this game, right? I don't see how they would look to go all out, you know, aerial assault with Jarvis Landry and essentially nobody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most likely thing we see is a lot of rushing for the Browns today. I don't want to completely put all my money into that because I feel like if they do pass a decent amount, Jarvis Landry is in a really good spot where no Odell Beckham Jr. just means his target share is going to be pretty high. So I think he has a lot of upside depending on how this game turns out. But I mean, Nick Chubb is a great option this week because they are most likely going to run the ball a ton, and the matchup versus the Lions is pretty amazing. So I think he's one of the safer spend ups this week.
Okay. Anything else for this one, Ben?
No, again, I think for good reason, a lot of people are going to click Cleveland's defense. Now, I get anytime you have like a really popular defense, the allure is to fade, but there's also a very obvious reason why they're going to be so popular given the situation.
Okay. San Francisco, Jacksonville. Ben, I'll stick with you here with the San Francisco 49ers expected to be without Elijah Mitchell. This is a 1 p.m. game, so we'll get that news. He's doubtful. JaMychal Hasty, this is big too because he's been getting a lot of pass catching work. He remains out. Jeff Wilson Jr., you know, this is a guy who last year, when everyone thought it was going to be Hasty in that 4 p.m. game, came out and had a monster performance. When he's been given the opportunity in the past, Jeff Wilson has actually been pretty damn good running behind this offensive line.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think that's a product that he's a pretty good player, but it's also just, you know, they run a really good scheme. They've always been able to run the ball with a lot of different guys in this offense, and I don't think it'll be any different. The bigger question I have is, what is Jeff Wilson going to give them in the passing game? Is he going to have a ton of opportunities? And then you've got, of course, Debo and Kittle both there to really help. San Francisco is playing better. I think this is a pretty bad spot for them. I'm not going to lie. This is not an ideal situation coming off a big-time win. 45.5 point total. They are upwards of a touchdown favorite. So certainly I think you can go to Wilson. You can go, I mean, Kittle's always going to be in play if he's hovering around that 6K price tag like he is. So I think it's just the main weapons for San Francisco, and I get it, but I'm a little worried about them in general today in the game itself.
Feeling a little down on Wilson and company, huh? Okay.
I do. I am. I think you get plus 230 for the Jags money line. I'm just saying.
All right. You going to hit it or are you just saying?
Maybe I'm just saying. No, I probably will have a sprinkle on it. Honestly, I guess if you want to be different, but again, 42.5-point total, 13-point favorites. The optics are okay, but you're not going to get much cooperation from Detroit, and I think that makes it pretty tough to be different in this game. So you're really focused on Nick Chubb, and as you mentioned, his price point doesn't allow a ton of margin of error. He needs to run pretty hot with the touchdowns.
Yeah, no question. That's a concern to me, But another thing to consider is Donovan Peoples-Jones is essentially doubtful for this one, Alex. So Baker Mayfield, all you've heard about all week is he's banged up, he's bruised up, the man's taking a beating this season. Sounds like they're running cover for him just so those commercials still hold some value. But I think they're going to try and run the football as much as humanly possible in this game, right? I don't see how they would look to go all out, aerial assault with Jarvis Landry and essentially nobody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most likely thing we see is a lot of rushing for the Browns today. I don't want to completely put all my money into that because I feel like if they do pass a decent amount, Jarvis Landry is in a really good spot where no Odell Beckham Jr. just means his target share is going to be pretty high. So I think he has a lot of upside depending on how this game turns out. But I mean, Nick Chubb is a great option this week because they are most likely going to run the ball a ton, and the matchup versus the Lions is pretty amazing. So I think he's one of the safer spend ups this week.
Okay. Anything else for this one, Ben?
No, again, I think for good reason, a lot of people are going to click Cleveland's defense. Now, I get anytime you have like a really popular defense, the allure is to fade, but there's also a very obvious reason why they're going to be so popular given the situation.
Okay. San Francisco, Jacksonville. Ben, I'll stick with you here with the San Francisco 49ers expected to be without Elijah Mitchell. This is a 1 p.m. game, so we'll get that news. He's doubtful. JaMycal Hasty, this is big too because he'd been getting a lot of pass catching work. He remains out. Jeff Wilson Jr., this is a guy who last year, when everyone thought it was going to be Hasty in that 4 p.m. game, came out and had a monster performance. When he's been given the opportunity in the past, Jeff Wilson has actually been pretty damn good running behind this offensive line.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think that's a product that he's a pretty good player, but it's also just, they run a really good scheme. They've always been able to run the ball with a lot of different guys in this offense, and I don't think it'll be any different. The bigger question I have is, what is Jeff Wilson going to give them in the passing game? Is he going to have a ton of opportunities? And then you've got, of course, Debo and Kittle both there to really help. San Francisco is playing better. I think this is a pretty bad spot for them. I'm not going to lie. This is not an ideal situation coming off a big-time win. 45.5-point total. They are upwards of a touchdown favorite. So certainly I think you can go to Wilson. You can go, Kittle's always going to be in play if he's hovering around that $6K price tag like he is. So I think it's just the main weapons for San Francisco, and I get it, but I'm a little worried about them in general today in the game itself.
Feeling a little down on Wilson and company, huh? Okay.
I do. I am. I think you get plus 230 for the Jags money line. I'm just saying.
All right. You going to hit it, or are you just saying?
Maybe I'm just saying. No, I probably will have a sprinkle on it, honestly. I think this is a pretty bad spot. The Jaguars are playing a lot better. The defense especially has been very, very solid. They were already top 5 against the run in rushing yards allowed per attempt, and the passing defense has come on in recent weeks. They have shrunk it. I know it's a small sample, but for the year, they're giving up 7.6 yards per passing attempt. Last 3 weeks, it's down to 5.3. So obviously it's going to marginalize and regress, but Jacksonville has been a lot better in recent weeks.
Where are you at, Alex?
I think San Francisco is pretty intriguing. Jeff Wilson is one of the best value plays this week.
Okay.
It just seems like, given that he got a pretty good workload last week when Eli Mitchell was in, now that Trey Sermon's the only other running back, and he's really been at the bottom of the pecking order all year, that Jeff Wilson should get the work. It's a team that loves to run, so I feel great about Jeff Wilson this week. But Debo and Kittle are interesting contrarian plays just because of how talented they are. And the matchup versus Jacksonville, not one that that's really moving the needle a ton for me. The main thing I'm worried about is that they're not going to put up any points, so then San Francisco is going to run more. But if that's not the case, Kittle and Debo could have a huge game because, yeah, I guess from what you're saying, their pass defense past couple weeks has been good, but on the season a little bit worse than average. So I don't know exactly how to reconcile those, but I think Debo and Kittle aren't going to be super popular because of the matchup, and they're always guys I want to take some shots on.
Okay. Now, yeah, I mean, Debo is just remarkable. Nobody's averaging more yards after the catch, more yards per route run than he is this year. He's been insanely good. And I agree. There's so many good top tier receivers that you can get different pretty easily with a guy like Debo. That to me stands out for sure. Especially when most of the ownership in this game is going to be on on Jeff Wilson in the run game, Alex.
Exactly. Yeah, everyone's playing the run here. That's an opportunity in tournaments to get a little different. I even don't mind Jimmy G, because if Kittle and Samuel have a big game, then Jimmy G is going to get a lot of fantasy points just through their production. So I haven't played him much this year, but this could be the first time.
What are you doing on the Jacksonville side? By the way, James Robinson is expected to play. He's questionable, but he's expected to play.
I think it's a tough matchup. I mean, San Francisco's defense is very good. They just stuffed the Rams like pretty hard in their last game. But James Robinson might be a guy you could take some shots on. Since he's got that Q tag, that'll probably make people off him. And I don't know. I don't feel great about it, but it's just a guy that in the past has gotten a crazy workload. So if that's true today, he has upside.
Ben, any thoughts on Jacksonville this week?
I mean, yeah, I think kind of Alex summed it up nicely. It's not an ideal spot. I think if the Jags are able to hang in the game, it's probably coming in under this total. I don't really see them, at the beginning of the year, I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to actually be a pretty good fantasy QB just because of pure volume. Unfortunately, the Jaguars have gotten a little better and they have realized that they probably should have more balance. So unless something changes again, it's just not really happening right now. So limited touchdown upside. I don't like the Jaguars much today.
Okay. Let's talk about Green Bay and Minnesota then. Aaron Rodgers, Ben, is coming into this game a little hobbled. They're 1-point favorites on the road, 47.5-point total. But he's dealing with what is considered a painful toe injury. Now, I don't know. We don't really know until we see it what any of this means. But are you worried about this influencing his performance today? And does it trickle down to Davante Adams? We'll obviously talk about Dylan, but let's hit on this Rodgers thing first.
Nah, I assume if he's out there, he's good enough to play. I think that even if he's slightly limited, a lot of people won't play him for this reason. So you're getting increased upside when he is fine in these scenarios. So I don't worry about him. I don't worry about Adams. They're going to be needed if Green Bay is going to win this game.
Do you like him?
Not particularly. I mean, I think they're always in play just because you're talking about one of the premier quarterback to wide receiver combos in the league. I just look in the salary you're allocating there, just for them too, 15,400. You can get either a three-man stack or just other premier stacks. We obviously will be talking about Kansas City and Dallas in due time and just other guys in there. I would rather have Allen and Diggs for basically the same type of cost.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Like just a much better matchup. Feels like a higher scoring game, although this does still have a 47.5-point total. Alex, where do you land on the passing game for the Packers?
Passing game, I mean, I think Davante Adams is really where I would start and end. Alan Lazard is out this week, so maybe Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Randall Cobb benefit a little bit from that. But this is actually a game that we're projecting to be on the slower side, so I'm actually expecting a lot less production in general from this game than props. So the lines are varying a lot between book to book on Rodgers and Cousins, but I'm taking the unders on both because of the pace and the fact that both teams are Minnesota leans slightly to the run. Green Bay is pretty neutral. The problem with stacking up Green Bay is it's really hard to make a lineup that's different than other Green Bay stacks because you're investing a ton into Rodgers and Devontae, and then all the other options are pretty negative. So AJ Dillon might be the other guy I would stack up, but yeah, I think they're in a decent spot, but I'm a little under the field on them.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed on OddsShopper was if you were to sort by expected win rate, which you can do, makes it super easy to find the bets with the highest projected win rate, which is really, the biggest discrepancy between our projections, which we believe are better, and where the props are at. And I couldn't believe, Alex, how many of the unders for this game were towards the top for expected win rate this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these props are based on year-to-date stats. So you look at Kirk Cousins, and he's at 278 yards per game. But I do remember they've had 3 overtime games, so that really boosts their stats a lot compared to what you should expect on an average day. So since they're going off that most of the time, I think you can find a big edge if you just kind of dig deeper into the stats.
Are you going to be running any of those DGen Millie Maker prop parlays today?
Dude, I did throw in one 13-legger. So actually, they have this new thing on DraftKings Social where you can just find people's bets and tail them. So if you follow me on DraftKings Social, you can actually just bet it right from their app. So that's kind of cool.
So we can sweat it together, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Ben, you got any 13 prop parlays on the card today?
No, I leave that to the boss man. I'll just be grinding my normal, but it is true. Again, I mean, when you look at some of these, I think when you're looking at stuff like this and they're world-class players, they're top-end targets, it is the peripheral things that make the difference, because of course we all know that Rodgers to Adams can win a tournament every single week, but when you stack it up against the other opportunity costs and what we're seeing on OddsShopper, I think it becomes clear, not that you can't go there, that there is some hesitations and maybe there's some other spots I'd prioritize.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Now, with AJ Dillon, though, Ben, this is the same player that last week only played 49% of the snaps because Aaron Jones was out there for half of the game and still saw 23 looks, 21 carries, 2 targets. He had a long 50-yard reception as well. Hey, someone said earlier in the show, I don't know why you guys are acting like AJ Dillon is Aaron Jones. Nobody's acting like that. We are, however, acting like AJ Dillon has a matchup against a bottom 5 run defense in a game with a 48 total, saw 23 carries and 23 looks and 50% of the snaps last week, and was already being really heavily used in the offense. And if you take it one step further, he's a lot cheaper than Aaron Jones would ever be as well. So this is not apples to apples, Ben. It's a guy that is underpriced, could easily see 20 plus touches in a game where he's facing a bad run defense.
Yeah, he's going to be probably the most popular play on this entire slate, and I think that's probably warranted. He's shown, I mean, even going back to college, this guy can handle a massive workload. He seems to be eager and willing to catch the ball. He has no problem doing that. I mean, the books have him over under 4.5 receptions. Even if he comes in close to that number, that's a big boost. And then the carries are there. It's a competitive game. He's obviously going to consolidate all the work. So I get it. I still think, anytime you're talking about very, very popular, this is the NFL. So that you're always going to look for pivots, but there's very easy reasons to justify why he's underpriced here.
Allen Lazard's also doubtful for this game. Listen, I know Dillon's popular, but I feel like it's going to be another one of those spots. If Rodgers is struggling, he's just going to start throwing to Dillon again like he did with Jones. I'm not saying he's the same pass catcher. I think you're going to see Dillon involved plenty in the passing game if they struggle to move the ball. So I'm okay with the ownership here when it comes to Dillon. Alex, what are you doing with him today?
I think Dillon's one of the best running back plays. I mean, you got a team that is a decent favorite versus Minnesota, and Minnesota's defense isn't that good, and he's getting a workhorse role presumably at a mid-range salary. So pretty much everything's lining up for Dillon. I think he's a top play this week.
Okay. Now, Minnesota. Jefferson's going to cost you, Alex. He's priced among the top options. And then you've got Dalvin Cook, priced up there among a lot of those guys. And you're seeing, how are you approaching ownership, or how are you approaching a lot of these top priced running backs on a slate where so many of the mid-range and value running backs are creating a surge in ownership there and pulling it away from the guys at the top of the position?
Yeah, that's the tough thing, is you can get a lot less for spending down this week at running back, especially with Jeff Wilson and Mark Ingram. So that's going to be typically what the optimal lineups are going to look like this week, with maybe AJ Dillon as the most expensive running back. But that being said, like in big field tournaments, you can kind of get an edge sometimes by just spending money at different positions than everyone else. So if you were to tell me that you spent up at running back and down on wide receiver, it's not going to get you a high projection, but it could get you differentiation that's valuable.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at Minnesota, obviously they've got, Alphas on the outside and Cook, who I think we've all been waiting at times and looking for that just like super blow up game. I'm not saying it's here, but obviously the guy is always going to be in play. I just see nothing from them that really stands out. That doesn't mean that they're a straight pass. That doesn't mean that you can't be different and utilize this game. But I think they're one of those teams that all their production really is consolidated amongst pretty premier price tags and premier players. So that's a give and take. You know where it's going, but you're also paying for it. It's not a team to really mix up. And when you have that situation on a slate like this, I feel like you're priced out of Minnesota sometimes, just because they still are slight underdogs in this game. And I'm not sure exactly that a guy like Dalvin Cook is that good right now to justify paying this, even though, again, we know who he is long-term. It's just this year he's left some to be desired.
All right. So with that in mind, then, do you want to get to anything here for Minnesota?
Again, not priority wise. I hate to be a downer. I look at it and it's not as simple as, oh, do I want to play Dalvin Cook? It's, do I want to play Dalvin Cook, or do I want to play Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Zeke, Mixon, and maybe take some savings? I think I would rather choose the savings. And then on the flip side, it's like, do I want to play Jamar Jefferson? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. I kind of want to play Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs and those type of guys. So it's just where
Justin
these guys
Jefferson, not Jamar Jefferson, who is out.
Yeah, Jamar Jefferson too. He can come from the Lions and get into this game if he wants. But I just see a situation there. The opportunity cost for their big time players, I think I like the other situations for the neighbors in the price range.
Alex, do you have any additional thoughts on the passing attack for Minnesota?
Yeah, I guess this game stack could be kind of interesting, but the problem is everyone is so expensive that you really can't get Jefferson and Devontae Adams reasonably in the same lineup. So I guess I'm not super excited about the spend up options, because they do only have a 23-point total, and it's versus Green Bay. That's a favorite, so a little bit tougher to get to him this week.
All right, let's move it on then. Got a couple super chats I believe that we can hit on here that I missed. Thomas Buckley, thank you, sir. He said, how should we judge players' ownership percentage in tournaments compared to high stakes? Could someone like Dillon, who's currently 24%, be 40-50, or even more in high stakes or smaller entry contests? Possible. That's a great question, Ben. And I think Alex could hit on that as well. But we'll get it from both of you guys. How do you look at high stakes? Because obviously lower field ownership compared to projected ownership for a guy like Dillon, who right now is around 24%.
Yeah, I think, Thomas is spot on with that. Usually on a macro level, when you've got chalk, they're going to be even more popular in single entry and higher stakes, but it's a give and take. So the allure of the fade, I do think, is increased, because if you get it right, you can really separate. But the difference is on the other side, when you're in those type of tournaments, you don't need every play to smash, because there's just not that many people. So a guy like AJ Dillon, even if he gives a mediocre performance, it could be very, very valuable. And that's why he's so popular, because if he's securing a lot of his median outcomes in something like this, it can still be really good. So I get it. I think there's always an opportunity to roll the dice when you get into those nosebleeds ownerships, but also keep in mind what's considered a quote unquote bust is different in like the milli than a single entry or a high stakes tournament.
For sure. Alex, what about you here when it comes to ownership in high stakes compared to like the Millie or even, the $12 single entry, $300,000 prize pool, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think with higher stakes, the ownership tends to agree more with the projections. So that becomes a tricky situation because it's generally a little bit tougher to get an edge, but you can find that some of those mid-range projected ownership players are lower owned because the high end is such a higher owned. Like AJ Dillon might be 25% or 30% in a large field, but then in the in like a small field, high stakes, he could be like 50, 60%. So that just means a lot of the other running backs are getting a lot less ownership. So pretty much chop off the deep sleepers and replace those with kind of the mid low owned guys because they're going to be even lower owned in the high stakes.
So you don't need to go insanely crazy is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. It pays to be a little bit more conventional, especially given what Ben said, where you don't have to put up as many points.
Got it. Makes sense. Jordan asks, another super chat. Thanks, Jordan. What are two of the best stacking and limit rules for big NFL slates that you use, Alex?
I think for stacking, I generally want 2 players from the team as my quarterback. That's the main rule, just because I feel like quarterback's production in most cases is sum of the receivers. So that's really what I'm going for. And it's hard to hit the receiver plays. So if I can get 2 in the same lineup that are hits, that's big. So that's the main rule. From there, the run back is something you can consider. I don't think it's essential, but on teams that are big favorites, you want probably to run it back because you want that passing volume to continue. So that's where making groups helps because you can be a little bit more tailored in Fantasy Cruncher to exactly what you want to achieve.
All right. Hey, thanks for all the super chats, everyone. They're pouring in here. I'll get to that, Coach S. I'll get to that one for sure when we get there. And then we had, here it is. Clint Friday says, Alex, get Ben a new quarter zip Ralph Lauren pullover in a different color for Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. Good luck. Do you wear that quite often?
Oh, this is definitely in the rotation for sure. But I said, if Carolina wins today, maybe I get a blue one. All
right. Hey, if it looks good, it looks good, right? James Robinson officially active. Elijah Mitchell expected to be inactive. All right, we know all of that. And then last one here, Karen Batista, caps button locked in for this one. Thank you, Batista. Says better defense, Seattle or Carolina? I would imagine that's how it was asked. Ben?
So we have to see what's up with Kyler, but even if he's out, I would still go with Carolina. I think Carolina could really cause some problems for Washington today.
Okay. I like it. Yeah, I don't think Kyler plays anyway, but
no.
Valid. Hey, after this, Live Before Lock is coming up, and I would hope that you guys stick around for that. You got Josh Engelman filling in for Eric Lindquist. Maybe you'll get some higher energy out of Matt Savoca and Gajeski than you did from Adam Scher this morning. My God, guy was half dead.
I missed it.
Those guys are awesome. They'll take you all the way up to lock, and be sure to stick around for that. All right, fellas. Baltimore and Chicago. Before we do, though, Jordan, cue it up. I just want to shout out everybody we got for Hall of Fame, and then we're going to rip through these last 4 games, get you guys set and ready. Awesome Hall of Fame. If you want to know what this is, it's simple. You rock the avatar. You win or finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Any site, Yahoo, DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever, and tweet us at AwesomeHof. You get a free month of Awesome Plus Platinum, $90 value. That's all you got to do. Download the avatar, tweet us at AwesomeHof, include Ben, Alex, and myself in it as well because it's fun. Follow us while you're at it. JazzRaz DFS, Awesome DFS, and Lafayette_D. And let's get rocking. We want to shout you guys out, show you some love each and every time. Jordan Lockhart has become a fixture here. I guess we didn't get the new one in there yet. Anyway, took down 100K. He tweeted us like last night or this morning again, and it was another 25K. So congrats, Jordan, keeping it up, man. Brett tied for first in the mini max with another Awesome member. Love to see that as well. And then if we just keep moving here, you got Pickens. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're entering a quarter or nickel or dime or whatever it is. We will still honor that $90 Awesome Plus as long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Jack congratulations, third place. Get that free month with NHL action over there. And then Sean's on $44,000. Boom. Get it. Sean does some amazing work behind the scenes, fixture in the DFS industry for a while, especially when it comes to winning. And then how about El Negro Loco? Shout out to Awesemo Odds and the Odd Shopper tool. Appreciate the hard work you guys do putting up behind the scenes with the 4-player parlay over using Odd Shopper. Boom. And then another parlay, turning a little bit into a lot. Congrats to everybody. Use that avatar. Hit us up on Twitter and get featured here on the Hall of Fame. All right, let's keep going, boys. We've got Baltimore and Chicago. Alex, are you worried about Lamar right now? Because it seems like he's a legit game time decision and might not play.
Well, I'm worried about his performance. The last thing I saw is he's going to attempt to play, but we'll find out if he's inactive in a few minutes.
Yeah, and that's why you stick around for Live Before Lock too. They can break down a lot of this. But Ben, if we're assuming he's active right now, you have no Marquise Brown. That'll open things up for Rashad Bateman. If he doesn't play though, if Lamar is out, I'm really not interested. I don't really want to get to much Rashad Bateman, even if he's going to be, a focal point in the offense.
Yeah, I mean, no, not really. This is obviously a huge piece of news. This is not, Big Ben is out and Mason Rudolph and the spread's going to move a point. Like if Lamar is ruled out, I think the Bears will be favorite. And right now it's down to 4 already. Like this would change everything about this game. The more interesting thing to me is if he's active, do you have the the stones, for lack of a better word, to roster him? Because I don't know if a lot of people are hearing this news and they're thinking, oh, he's going to try to give it a go. But if he's just Lamar, I mean, it'd be a fantastic tournament play with that rushing upside if he's not limited in any way.
We just don't know.
But if he's active and he gives it a go, I mean, I tend to more say I'm willing to burn some lineups. Because if you ever get something like that right, the number of people that are going to play Lamar today are severely impacted by this news that maybe was nothing. Maybe it's not as big of a deal as they're making it if he is in fact out there.
Yeah. And Jordan, get rid of that scumbag.
Harry?
Huh?
Harry?
Yeah, that guy's been permanently deleted.
Wait, who is it?
He just kept saying in chat, Asimo stinks. He said it like 7 times.
Oh, today?
It just like now in the chat, yeah. But I had some good comebacks planned until we deleted the messages. I was gonna be like, whoever smelt it dealt it.
Tell him.
Yeah, that's strong, dude. I was actually talking about the guy who is. Oh wait, you know what? Hold on a second. So, here's what I'll do. And yes, El Negro Loco, I'll lean on you here. I get Schefter stuff straight to my phone as well, but there's just too much coming in and chatting, people saying ridiculous stuff. Yes, he's been leaning out for a minute now. They're trying to hydrate him and all of this stuff. So look, we'll know shortly, like Alex said. So let's just back off of that for a second because it's not going to do it as many favors. If Lamar's out, this team sucks. What about Chicago, Alex?
With Chicago, I think David Montgomery is kind of intriguing spend down. The matchup is tough because they're big underdogs and Baltimore can run the air out of the ball, but he's only 5,500 on DraftKings, and that's a really good points per dollar play. So if Chicago ends up having a performance where they win the game, he would be in line to benefit a ton. Allen Robinson being out kind of makes it tough to get to the pass catchers, but Darnell Mooney should get a little bit of bump, and then Marquise Goodwin is the value play that I'd be looking at. So Cole Kmet also kind of cheap this week.
Vu Boy says, I would appreciate one more comeback from Alex. Did you have anything else loaded up in the hopper?
I was thinking, like, I know you are, but what am I?
That's solid. Yeah, I mean, pulling these out from like when we were 5.
Yeah, I mean, like, we set them for a reason back then.
Yeah, we did. Ben, do you like anything from Chicago?
So I will say they just pulled the game off the board. man, I really thought there was no chance that Lamar would miss, but we will see soon. From Chicago, I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, Tyler Huntley starting today. That's
Yeah,
what
it's off the board. Why didn't I just do it? I was so close to saying, you know what, I'm just gonna put the Bears blindly. That was not smart.
All right, unblock that scumbag.
That guy is just like, yeah, Lamar.
No, he was talking out his ass though. Because it wasn't Schefter that reported it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 50-50, or either played or he didn't. So that's how that works. Anyway, I mean, Allen Robinson being out, I think does consolidate a little here. But in some ways, I wanted Lamar to play 4 Fields. Like, I think that he would have been better served in a wild game here, where this just has all the makings to just be uglier and more methodical. So I think you can pay for Cole Kmet at the tight end position. Now I'm a little more unsure. I thought Fields was kind of an interesting tournament play. They're getting him on the edge. They're using his legs. I just wanted him more to be, in a negative game script where he's forced to throw. He doesn't have major passing volume to begin with. And if they're leading, then what are we going to get from this team? So that is a concern of mine.
I have some concerns about that as well. Tremaine Edmonds is out for the Bills. That's big defensively. He's a great linebacker. Lamar Jackson officially inactive. So now you guys have all of that news. I don't know. I say we move on to a game that we actually want to talk about. Cincy and Las Vegas. Alex, and we did have a super chat from Coach S. Appreciate the support, man, from earlier. I do believe you answered it in chat, but I'll just throw it out there because it was a nice super chat. When you guys get to this game, happy Turkey Day early. You guys are the best. Thanks, man. Stats show best stats show on slates this size. There is leverage on quarterback, running back, wide receiver stacks. Do you like a Burrow Mixon wide receiver stack? Maybe a run back? Much love, Coach S. Good question, Alex. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I think Cincinnati, Vegas, this definitely has some shootout potential. So this is a great one to stack up. And I think that going with running back and wide receiver makes a lot of sense because the wide receiver kind of gets the lead and the running back gets a ton of carries as a result. So I think that's a great way to build a lineup.
What about you, Ben? Do you have any of those?
I definitely think that that's something that man, our chat is in rare form today. But yeah, I definitely think that that's a way that you can go and when you get those, Alex talked about, those are the type of games. And Laffy, you always talk about this, man. You've got, I don't want to say they're awful teams in the Raiders and the Bengals, but when you've got teams like that, the range of outcomes, it feels like it's legitimately like
I like Ingram and Wilson better than this one. Foreman and Johnson and Carter.
6-3 or 45-42 style. Like there's just a lot there. That game definitely has shootout potential. And when you do that, you can really construct some interesting builds. Yeah,
man. I think on the Cincy side, Ben, if you want to look towards Jamar Chase, obviously he's a solid option. T. Higgins is strong. They are pulling a decent amount of ownership though, which is why I'm trying. Tyler Boyd's a tough guy to roster because he's not really a high upside player, but he's getting no ownership. And I think we were talking about this all the way back on Tuesday that projecting Joe Mixon for low ownership, I like him as well. I'm just having trouble getting to more of these expensive running backs today, given what we have as alternatives at the position.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, every time you're paying there, the drop off, the lower end wide receivers are, to me, not that great this week. And when you are forced to funnel to them because you paid up at running back, it's a lot different than when you're getting like Foreman and Ingram types, and then you're able to still pay up for like Tyreek Hill and Diggs style. So it is all about the slate we've been dealt. And I think this week, clearly there's more cheap running backs than cheap receivers.
Alex, where do you stand on the Bengals today?
Bengals are solid. I mean, the one thing that's tough is spending up on the stack, but aside from that, I think they're a great play. The top stacks is free today, right? So we could, maybe not today, but Cincinnati ranks in 8th with a 5% chance of being the top stack. So that's a pretty solid figure. LA right around that same mark. So I think there's some potential here.
Okay. Who do you like most out of the Bengals? And are you getting to any Mixon?
Yeah, I think Mixon's a great option. He's kind of one of the guys that's going to go under the radar today because there are such great value options at running back. So we have Mixon at 7% owned compared to 6% chance of being the optimal lineup. So in a stack that you're kind of like influencing those odds, so that even helps a little bit more. And then Higgins and Chase both have among the higher chances of being in the winning lineups today.
Where are you at on the Vegas Raiders then, Ben? On the flip side of this game, you've got Waller, who's been middling at best given his price point recently. Josh Jacobs is in my opinion, it's just, I don't know why you would want to get there unless you're trying to be insanely different, given so many guys priced similarly to him in better spots. Renfro and
Yeah, it's a team that, I mean, there's obviously a lot of concerns, but I still see some useful pieces, particularly Renfro. I don't think it's a gigantic range of outcomes, but he's the type of guy, the targets are very secure and they're highly convertible. So on a full point PPR, he does give you a pretty good floor. Price feels about right. And Cincinnati, I mean, everyone was, all over them, and then they lost the Jets. But to me, more concerning, they got destroyed against the Browns as well at home. So they really have shown they've got some serious issues, particularly defensively. I think Waller's tricky because we know he's got the talent, but as you mentioned, now like Kittle is back and certainly Kelsey's on this slate as well. So it is a little trickier there, but the Raiders are a team. If you're stacking the game, obviously if you're stacking Carr, you're going to need a couple. And if not, and you're going to Burrow, I still think you can use Renfro or Waller on the run back.
Do you like any? Would you say you have priorities from this game? And how many? Have you built all of your lineups yet?
I'm working through it.
Okay. Are you getting to a lot of Cincy Las Vegas stacks?
Not a ton of stacks, but I do like them for one-offs. I think that we've already talked about Chase and Higgins, who I really think have the opportunity for massive opportunities. And for me on the Raiders side, Renfro is a guy, particularly if I've been aggressive with my lineup, I think he's one of the safer mid-range options. And what I mean by that, I'd be pretty surprised, if he just tanks, because again, the targets are very convertible. So it's not the type of guy where I'm like, oh, I need this guy to go nuts and nuclear. But if I say I've already made my stand, I think Renfro's the type of guy, he's not going to win the tournament for you, but he also probably doesn't lose that.
Alex, same thing to you for the Raiders.
Hold the phone. Trinity Benson's inactive for the Detroit Lions.
Big.
Game changer.
Anyway, yeah, I think Renfro is a great option. He got a lot more playing time last week than I was expecting, kind of being a smaller wide receiver. He kind of can get game scripted out a little bit if they're running the ball a lot. But Josh Jacobs is someone that looks like he's super under the radar, only 4% owned this week projected. So I think that he's been getting a majority of the carries, except for games where he's injured, which seem to be multitude. But I think maybe he could be a sneaky option today.
Okay. 2 games to go. Let's do it. And appreciate you. Over 1,200 thumbs up. Much love. 3,700 people watching right now. Takes a second. Last call for likes here on the Deeper Dive. We got 10 minutes to go. We'll toss it over to Live Before Lock. 1,500 seems unlikely, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So if you haven't hit that thumbs up, hit that for us and help us get there. Kendall Young, thank you for the super chat. What's the recommendation for randomness percentage if you're only playing 20 lineups? Thanks, guys. Also, tie with another member won 2K last night. Congrats, Alex. Any recommendations for randomness?
So I like running lineups with a lot of randomness, somewhere in the 70% range. But then it's really key if you use that much randomness to delete bad lineups. So I'll sort by projection, by ownership, and delete some of the ones with too low projection or too high ownership. If you're just going straight from Cruncher to entering your lineups, I would say maybe like 25% randomness should be enough to get the job done.
Sounds good. Arizona, Seattle, and then we wrap it up with Dallas and Kansas City. That's a big one today. Ben, Arizona on the road. Kyler Murray's, again, it's like questionable, but trending towards out again, trending towards Colt McCoy starting. DeAndre Hopkins is already ruled out. So the passing game gets ugly here. And it's a downgrade for Connor as well. But I will say, even despite them getting smoked last game, down 28-0 at half, Connor still played 82% of snaps.
Yeah, I think we did get some insight, an important data point that it didn't work out perfectly for Connor Chalk. But at the same time, we also saw, this guy's going to have every opportunity to succeed week in and week out. And I don't think a ton has changed. Maybe we've realized Arizona's just simply not that good, but when you're going to be able to get the targets and get the attempts, floor is going to be pretty secure. I guess the interesting thing is, the recency bias is so extreme. 2 weeks ago or last week, everyone wanted to talk about him. Now AJ Dillon is right next to him, and everybody is talking about that situation, rightfully so. So if you hang on with Connor here, I don't think that's a crazy move at all, because he can't be nearly as popular as last week, just given the situation with the Packers right now.
Yeah, you're right. And Ingram and a bunch of other guys that are even down further below that. So, Alex, the only spot here that I'm really entertaining is James Conner. Is there anybody else in Arizona that you like?
James Conner is really the guy to look at, just because we're not expecting a ton from the passing game with Colt McCoy. Although Christian Kirk did have a pretty good week last week, so maybe a deep flyer there.
Okay. Alex, then what about with Seattle coming off 0 points at Lambeau Field last week? I think, you're getting Lockett at probably the cheapest he's going to be all season. Metcalf at very little ownership. Of course, Chris Carson is going to be done for the year. So Alex Collins is a guy that our projections, particularly on OddsShopper, absolutely love this week to go over his projected rushing yards. Check that out at OddsShopper if you're looking to hit that. The best spot right now, FanDuel, -110, over 48.5 rushing yards. Takes 2 clicks to get those bets in at OddsShopper. Just sort by expected ROI or expected win rate when you go to shop NFL. It'll make your life absurdly easy from a DFS research perspective, but also getting those props in. Is Seattle a team you want to target heavily today, Alex?
Not heavily, but they're definitely on my radar. Alex Collins is a very intriguing sleeper at 5K. He's just he's going to go under the radar because of guys like Jeff Wilson and others just that are really popular. Mark Ingram that are really popular today. Alex Collins doesn't get quite that lion's share of the work, but is still definitely enough to get it done in a GPP. The box score watchers are going to be off him because he's averaged 5 points per game over the last 3 weeks. But I think that he's definitely the guy to look to in the backfield. And then Metcalf and Lockett from week to week, always great options.
Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I think that, one of the things with Arizona, they've continuously struggled against the run. Early in the year, it was being masked because they were winning by so much. These teams would have to abandon it. They're dead last in the league, 4.8 yards per rushing attempt allowed. And I think if these teams get on top of them, we're going to see a heavy dose of Alex Collins. So I don't mind that play at all. And I think that the game script, unlike earlier in the year, people are seeing now with the Cardinals, if they fall behind, actually, it's very difficult because these other teams are just going to continuously run on them.
Yeah, that's something I've said a lot about Cleveland this year. If they fall behind, the Cleveland Browns cannot catch up.
Yeah.
But I don't anticipate that being the case again today. I wanted to throw out there that Donovan Peoples-Jones, I believe, is out. I don't think Landry is the craziest option if you wanted to get a little bit different there, because there's no more Beckham. I don't know how much that matters. No Peoples-Jones. They'll run a lot, but maybe Landry gets there at a discounted price point. All right, fellas, let's close it out. Biggest game of the week, Dallas, Kansas City. And Ben, if you look at our top stack tool, Dallas has the, third or fourth highest top stack probability. They still have a positive leverage score because this team just isn't, outside of Gallup, getting a lot of ownership. They're not getting a lot of love.
No, and that's a situation that I think we look at that total. I mean, there's a lot to like here and people will go, but think about Dallas, there's a lot of different ways to construct this stack. You're going against a Chiefs team. We're going to find out. Are they back? Are they not? Was it a blip? It's in Arrowhead, very competitive game, no doubt. So I definitely have some interest, like most, in Dak and Lamb, and Amari's not there. So maybe it's consolidated even more. And we did have a super chat not strictly related to this game, but about, how many quarterbacks in your player pool if you're running, a ton of lineups. And I know for me, it does differ, but a game like this, the nice thing about it is you can have a multitude of different permutations within a game. So I don't think it means just spray with all the quarterbacks. I think it's okay, hone in on the guys that you like and then be different. You can have 2 receivers, a receiver and a tight end. Obviously, you could put Zeke in there, and there's different things you can do. I think the Cowboys are a perfect team to have a lot of different types of stacks too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Dalton Schultz being one that I like quite a bit today. Alex, I have no problem with him. Gallup, obviously popular, but yeah, there are ways that you can make this work. And then CeeDee Lamb, because he's priced similarly to a lot of the other top tier guys, on another slate, Lamb would be way higher owned than this without Amari Cooper, but he's only coming in around like 13% right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lamb will be somewhat popular because Amari Cooper's out, but everyone's kind of expecting this game to be a shootout. You can't pay in tournaments to go the other way and just hope that other games are more interesting than it. And the reason why it's a little bit more viable in a game like this is because everyone is like a high price option. So they're in great spots, but you're paying for it. So I think this one, I mean, I like all the players individually, but from a game theory perspective, I might try to be under the field.
Okay. What about on Kansas City? Same thing?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Hill and Kelsey are really the options I'm looking at there, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire returning. That kind of makes Darrell Williams' workload a little bit less secure. So Hill and Kelsey are always great options from week to week.
Ben, where are you at on Kansas City and this game stack as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you're paying the premier price tags, but you're always going to do that. And I think I still have some trouble, even though there's enough value where you can do it, going Mahomes, Kelsey, and Tyreek, just because it's very difficult to be different. You're going to pay for the pay down backs. Like everyone, you take a defense and you're kind of there. But as one-offs, I mean, what's there to say? Dallas's defense at times I think has looked better, but it's more in splash plays than being a shutdown unit. Like Diggs takes a lot of chances back there. I think Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, of course, are firmly in play, and they're guys that I tried to make room for today.
Okay. Do you have a lot of Mahomes double stacks, or are you basically going like skinny stacks with Mahomes if you're going there at all?
Yeah, I think I'd be more in the latter, and certainly on the Dallas side, it's a very easy run back with either of those guys if you want to stack up the game. But I do want to say to the other side, we talk about this on the show a lot. When you have a game like this, the full game fade, I think, can be really useful, because if for some reason the game busts, so many people's lineups are impacted in a negative way. So if you want to roll the dice on a couple lineups, just forget this game is on the slate and build accordingly. I think it's a low probability outcome, but one that if you hit could be really, really big.
That sweat is going to suck though, Alex, if we're super underweight on Dallas and Kansas City.
Yeah, we did get a new line for this Baltimore-Chicago game. Baltimore is still a 1.5 point favorite, so that's kind of interesting. I guess the line was kind of baking in that Moore might not play. Yeah, I'm not worried about the sweat. I'm just gonna turn off my phone. We'll see.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Let's close it out in a big way. T.O. Deck with $100 super chat. Thank you guys for everything that you do. This guy took down back-to-back showdown slates. So I do tune in every Sunday, all morning and every day, whether live or replay. None of us would have any success without you guys at Awesemo. Goats for real. Thanks, man. That's awesome. Good luck to you today. Stephen Walker, how many quarterbacks do you have in your player pool for 150 max entry? Quick, Ben. Oh, wait, you're not playing 150.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of an Alex. I said for me, I'd rather hone in on my quarterbacks and build different permutations than spray like 30 quarterbacks on a slate.
Who are your favorite quarterbacks then? Top 3.
It would be Dak, probably. Who else we got here? Renfro. Yeah, that's what you want to do. I think you roll the dice with someone like Jalen Hurts, and then Tua.
All right. And then last one, Jordan with another 100. Appreciate you guys and all the effort you provide. Best info. Let's win big today. That's right. Time for Awesemo and Locks 262 to tie for first in the Millie today. Good luck, guys. Appreciate it as always. We're over 4,000 watching right now. Where else to be on a Sunday morning? I'll tell you, at Live Before Lock with Josh and the Mats. We'll see you back here soon. Peace.
Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 11 trade targets for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, I'm going to be going over 5 different players that I believe you guys should be looking to trade for right now before it is too late. But before we can get on into my trade targets for week number 11, I would like to ask, if you do end up enjoying today's video at any point, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I'd also like to ask if you guys are on Twitter and would like to follow me on there to please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 11 trade targets. We begin with my number 1 trade target of the week, and that is DJ Moore, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers. Now, DJ Moore was one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football early on in the season. I'll read off some stats. Week number 1, up against the Jets, the man had 6 receptions on 8 targets for 80 yards. Week number 2, up against the Saints, 8 receptions on 11 targets for 79 yards and a touchdown. Week number 3, up against the Texans, 8 receptions on 12 targets for 126 yards, no touchdown in that game. And then week number 4, up against the Cowboys, 8 receptions, 12 targets, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It seemed like nothing was going to be able to stop DJ Moore. Robbie Anderson was there, but Robbie Anderson wasn't doing anything, and Sam Darnold was looking like he completely changed his career, going from the Jets to the Carolina Panthers, and everything seemed like they were going the way of DJ Moore, that everything was going to be great for the rest of the season, and that this was a guy that could potentially be the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. But after the first 4 weeks of the season, the guy hasn't scored a single touchdown since week number 4, and he has yet to eclipse over 100 yards since week number 4. DJ Moore has been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster since that week 4 game up against the Dallas Cowboys. Last week, up against the Arizona Cardinals, he had 4 receptions on 7 targets for just 24 yards. But I believe that things are going to change with Cam Newton under center for the team. I think that Cam Newton is going to bring a new spark to this offense, and I believe with a offense that is looking a lot better, then typically the wide receiver number 1 of the team is going to look a lot better. And we saw it through the first 4 weeks of the season. That's when the Panthers were successful. That's when the Panthers were winning games. That's when the Panthers were looking like potentially they might have been one of the sneakiest teams in the NFL because of how good they looked. And then as of recently, like I said, they fell off the edge of the fucking earth. But right now, with Cam Newton under center, I really do believe things are going to change. So go ahead and trade for DJ Moore right now before it is too late. Next up, we move to DJ Moore's quarterback, and that is Cam Newton, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. Now, last week, Cam Newton was very successful with the limited work that he was given. PJ Walker was the starting quarterback of the team last week, and that made complete sense because PJ Walker has been on the team all year. Obviously, Sam Darnold has been banged up. He's injured. They end up putting...
We are live. Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock. It is Sunday, November 21st. Did not remember that it was the 21st. These days just keep flying by. I am Josh Engelman, and while I'm not on the screen yet with both guys, I am going to be, I believe, in the middle of a Matt sandwich. That should be a good time. Savoca on one end, Gajeski on the other. We've got an hour plus to talk some NFL. Hit that like button, although a lot of you have already done it, up to 1,400 already. Laffy, for once, did a good job. I assume Ben and Alex are the reason that happened. Shout out to Yahoo for being the presenting sponsor of this video. I was about to just be like, Matt, how are you? Matts, how are you?
Both of us. Hey, I'm doing great. I'm really excited for the slate. No big news at all. No quarterback changes at all in the last hour that would affect any lineups whatsoever. Not scrambling on any platform. On top of that, Lamar Jackson news, I think this is going to be really fun to break down. Excited to be here.
What's the best way that I'm going to be able to address the two of you? Do I got to go Savoca Gajeski the entire time? Do either of you have like a specific nickname? Like I go by Bubbles or something? No, nothing.
No, the other hosts, we've had 3 different hosts now in 3 consecutive weeks, and the other 2 did Gajeski and Savoca.
Okay, that's fine. We're gonna come up with nicknames by the time this is over. All right, chat. Come up with your best nicknames for both guys so that I can distinguish between the mats for this show and be nice about it. Let's start here. Easiest place that we can do is we need to touch a little bit on actives and inactives. And right out of the gate, the big piece of news here, no Lamar Jackson, also no Hollywood Brown. Other inactives, Jared Goff, Allen Robinson, Eli Mitchell. We've got Miles Sanders. We've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and James Robinson all in. So we'll start with Matt Gajeski. What are you doing now with no Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens?
That wasn't a spot I had a lot of to begin with. I had like a consideration for a brief second if I want to play like Tyler Huntley in cash games, but there's a lot of value on this week's slate, particularly at the running back position. A little opened up earlier in the week at receiver with the Amari Cooper news. So we're not really starved for value on this slate. I'm not sure we need to go down to Huntley